Hey there team, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to Portal Revolution. This is a game I wouldn't mind talking about today. I've been playing a couple of hours with it. It's just come out, it's a free-to-play mod for Portal 2. Who knows, you know, we're still playing with format on the channel, and this isn't a full review. In fact, I'm not really big into full reviews, but I do like the idea of playing something for a couple of hours so you can get a little bit of a value judgment, save people having to buy and refund, that sort of stuff, even though this is free. But anyway, I don't want to get into channel business too much. Portal Revolution. So this is actually really cool. I'm enjoying it. I think I'm going to enjoy it the more I play it. There's a couple of issues out of the gate, which we'll talk about. Well, one design issue. But before I get to that, like broadly speaking, this is a real lot of fun, especially if you're into the Portal type games, bit of brain ticklers, that sort of stuff. It's got all the ingredients mixed in, and so far it seems to be working. You've essentially got a Wheatley come GLaDOS stand-in. I can't remember what his bloody name is, Stanley or Stanford or some crap like that. And yeah, he's kind of interesting. He has a split-on personality. Like, he seems kind of wholesome and friendly, but then he gets curious about your results as you go along. So like, one without the other would be kind of generic. But it's kind of cool that you'll solve a room and he'll be like, oh, that's interesting that you did that way. It's kind of cool, you know, and it sort of adds to a bit of a positive feedback loop. There's been a couple of times now that he's becoming a bit more familiar with you, he's kind of turning into a chatty Cathy main protagonist. There was a couple of times where, like, I've barely been in a room and he's trying to solve puzzles for me, which, you know, this is something that's plaguing AAA at the moment, and it's a bit of a shame to see them learning the wrong things from the AAA industry. If you're not across it, often in AAA, even with their absolutely mind-numbingly simple puzzles, you will have the main protagonist start remarking to themselves, oh, well, maybe if I go over there on the left and touch that button, that'll solve the problem. And it's like, prick, we've been in this room for 5 seconds. So he's done that a couple of times, and that kind of gave me the shits a bit, and he monologues a little bit now that we're getting into it. So, yeah, jury's still out. Seems cool, but a few issues. As far as the difficulty, because that's what you got to really think about. Now, I haven't played Portal 2 in ages. Recently, I played it some co-op with a friend because I knew I was going to have a look at this, and I just sort of thought, hey, why not? You know, we're hanging out together and playing that. The difficulty, I believe the dev has said, is it picks right up at the end of Portal 2, and that makes a fair bit of sense. Like I said, I've only played it for like 2 hours, and already we've gotten the 2 type of gels have come into it. I haven't even gotten the second portal gun. I'm in the room where you get the second portal. So far, for the first couple of hours, it's just blue portal interacting with a war portal. But there are some innovations that I haven't really seen before, and I don't want to spoil it. And also, I will caveat and say it's probably been like 10 years since I played Portal 2 properly, so maybe some of these things are in it. There are like emancipation grids that can be turned on and off. There's flowing water that stops the gel. And one of the really interesting things, I'm almost certain I never saw it, is putting the speedy gel, the orange gel, if you run on it. A lot of this is assuming a bit of assumed knowledge, sorry. But this game is assumed knowledge. Actually, that's the main takeaway. I wouldn't go into this blind if you've never played Portal 2, right? You'd want to play Portal 2 in its entirety, and then you want to play this afterwards, okay? It seems that the coefficient of friction, right, I haven't thought about this in a few years, of like a cube, it gets messed with when you put the orange gel on it, the speedy gel. And there's a puzzle fairly early on where there's a ramp. And I looked at the ramp, I was like, oh, no way, because there's a button at the bottom, and the only way you can press the button is if you, like, looking at it, you're like, well, I want to let this block slide down the ramp. You put the block, and being that it's a Half-Life 2 based engine game, I was like, oh, well, this will be a physics puzzle, it'll just slide down. It didn't budge. It would seem it's got an incredibly high friction coefficient. You know, I don't know how else best to describe it. And then I managed to get the gel on the cube, so it was covered in the orange bloody goo. And then if I put that on the ramp, then it slid. And then I could run off and jump on the elevator and it would slide down and press the button. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the original Portal. However, if it was, I apologize. So yeah, the puzzles are kind of fiendishly hard. However, here's the thing. And just then I realized that this game's getting overwhelming positive. So, you know, I'm not allowed to say bad things about it apparently. But I will. 50-50 on the puzzle design component of this. One is quite fiendish and clever innovations, you know, trying to create portals that carry goo through, but you have to get around the water and that sort of stuff. But I'm starting to see a core design principle, which I really don't like. Now, I'm not a puzzle designer, but I will try and explain it. I might even have to bloody put a notepad or like a MS Paint up, but I'll do my best with my words. consider, let's break it down to a real fundamental level. If your puzzle room area consists of 2 rooms, let's say A and B, and the exit's at the end of B and the entrance at the beginning of A, something like that, right? Now, essentially, to get through the exit, it's a 2-lock key. And what I mean by that is it probably needs like a button to be pressed or something like that, but it's not something that you can do on your own. We'll use the button example, really basic example. So if I stood on the button, the door will open, but I can't get out. So you need to put the button, the box on it or something, right? So you essentially need 2 moving parts to solve the puzzle, but to transit from room A to B, both parts can't go through, right? And so what this might be is like an emancipation grid. You can't put the cube through that, so you have to essentially transit through the level to room B. You would have to fling a portal or do something to circumvent the barrier to get the object into room B. Now, that sounds pretty innocent enough, pretty graspable. The problem is that the complexity is ramping up, but the puzzles, I will say almost every puzzle, has lent into this compartmentalized backtracking of bringing items forward from a previous room into the next one. Now, that simple example then, harmless, that's fine. But we're getting to a point where like A, B, C, but these rooms are huge and really complex. And it is essentially about, the last one I just did, actually, it's 50-50, like I said. Part of it's like pulling teeth because I have to keep going back and resetting a portal sequence from the beginning to transit through like 3 or 4 portals to get towards the end. It's so hard to describe, but it will get reset. As you transit through it, it emancipates one of your portals or whatever, and then you would have to reset that again. You know, if only, so you go back and you do that loop 4 times or whatever, or you do the 4 steps to get to the next area, and you do that to move a cube or something forward 1 spot. And then you have to go back and do it all again to get back to the cube in a big long loop to move it forward to room C. And then you have to do it all again. I'm doing my best to explain it. Try it. Obviously, this game's free. Give it a go. But it really worries me because, yes, the puzzles are fiendish, but not necessarily because they're Portal puzzles, because of the brilliant innovation that the Portal gun generally is known for. There are some cool moments in there where, you know, you got to fall through a thing at velocity and pop out and then pop another portal over there and then fall back through and fire out. These are classic designs, but the actual innovation, the new that I'm seeing for the most part is a little cheap in that it's got me rinsing and repeating the same sequence. You know, once you solve the first part, it will be contrived in such a way that you have to redo that solved thing like 3 or 4 times to keep progressing each bit. If this is not making sense, I apologize. I'm doing my absolute best to explain it, and I obviously don't want to spoil any of the puzzles. There'll be B-roll running through there, so you might be able to divine it from there. So yeah, that's sort of my issue. This idea of it's kind of like, if you were to do a distant analogy, it's sort of like how you can bloat an MMO with side filler shit, with like go collect 10 boar pelts. Like, would the game not be better if you took that boar pelt mission out, made the game shorter, tighter, concise, more fun experience? Whereas this game, yeah, I have concerns. A lot of the puzzles, while yes, some of them are fiendishly fun, and I may well review this or play some more or whatever. I don't know where I'm at with it. I just wanted to share thoughts. But yeah, a lot of the padding or the loop seems to be, well, exactly that. It is kind of a bit padded, and it does give me the shits. The other thing is that you might accidentally drop a portal or mess up, because it is trial and error ultimately with a lot of these puzzles, but you're already like 3 stages into the same repeat sequence, so you're now going to have to go back and do it yet again. And in a way, if it keeps on this path, it's kind of punishing you for progressing into the puzzle and then trying to figure out the next step, because if you misclick or you don't solve it immediately in one go, you're now going to have to go back and resequence from the beginning like 4 times again. Anyway, just some thoughts. That might sound harsh, but it's more that you got to understand it's a concept I haven't really seen before, and I'm doing my best to explain something that's very difficult to just use your words for. But look, generally speaking, if you like Portal and you are looking for something to play at the moment, which I am, because January, it's all very slow, This is very fiendish. It is, but I would be curious what the mileage would be. Like, if you're a die-hard fan, you probably had this wish listed and were following it already, this shit's going to be not a big deal for you. It's going to be water off a duck's back, right? But I feel like this might wear some people down when for the billionth time, they have an oh fuck moment, they accidentally emancipate a portal, and then they realize that then they have to go back and reset the same thing over and over again. One final thought, and I don't want to spoil it, but the environments and where the game goes, even in the first 2 hours, is clever. It's unique. It's not something that you've probably really seen a lot of before in Portal 2. Maybe a little bit of sunshine on the skin, we'll say that much. Anyway, cool. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this is something you try out. This sort of format may well be something I'm more comfortable with. Kind of a mini review, early impressions. I'll call it an overview, but not quite just the 30-minute, pure gameplay of yesteryear. Maybe I take a couple of hours, I develop some thoughts, and then I basically come in here and pitch it to you. And that gives you enough information to either try it yourself or at least start an investigation, right? I think there's probably value for something like this in the market next year. And who knows, I may well put more hours into this and clock it. I am enjoying it. I do want to play some more. And if I do finish it, I suppose I'll give you another video, see how I feel about it at the end. Anyway, team, thanks again for joining me. Might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.